Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patrons, Lee G and Felix the Cat. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. This afternoon, Elon said FSD 11.3 is close to a limited release. Just drove it through San Francisco and LA yesterday, and probably 11.3.2 is able to go wide. So it sounds like this will go to the early access testers first, and then maybe a few weeks or a few months later for a wider release. Important reminder though, does everybody remember this little narrative out there? Elon is destroying Tesla's brand and nobody in California, a bluer state, would ever buy a Tesla again? Even the guys at CNBC can't deny the facts.
Hey, Joe, this is a good indication of just how popular Tesla has become in California. And why we focus on this? California is the largest, most competitive auto market within the United States. And yes, you can say they're early adopters of EVs. This is a clear indication of that. The Model Y is now the best-selling vehicle in California. We're not talking best-selling electric vehicle, best-selling vehicle overall. It passed the Toyota Camry to become number one in the state. And the Camry, along with the Model 3, which, by the way, was number 2 in total sales, they helped Tesla move all the way up to number 2 among brand popularity for all the automakers in California. Toyota still dominates. It has 17% of the market, but Tesla has now gone past Chevy, Honda, Ford. Now, 1 out of every 10 vehicles sold in California is a Tesla.
And just a note on that California domination of Tesla right now. Well, looking at California vehicle sales, comparing Toyota in the blue, Tesla in the red, I don't have to tell you, you can see the trend yourself. This is quarterly data, and as of Q4 of last year, Tesla has eclipsed over 50,000 vehicles for the quarter in California, whereas Toyota is now hovering around 70,000, but that gap is closing pretty quickly. Speaking of trends, as the OP pointed out, look at the two best-selling vehicles over the last few years, 18 through 20. Then something started to change in 2021, and for this year, the Model Y and the Model 3 have now taken the top spot. I found a few more interesting charts, and you know I love visual data because you can zoom out and see certain trends. So the red bars are of course Tesla. This is BEV global sales by year, a great metric for everybody to watch and understand. And yes, definitely a hat tip to BYD in the white for huge growth in 2022 and expecting more of the same in 2023 for them. But it's really been Tesla, BYD, maybe VW if you want to throw them into the mix, and then everybody else. I really like this one too. So this is Tesla overtaking certain automakers. This is total vehicle sales, not just electric vehicles. This does include ICE. So in terms of total annual sales, Tesla has overtaken every automaker on this list except for the lime green line, which turns out to be BMW, and seems like 2023 could be that year. We already know Tesla dominates the luxury segment, but now that is broadening to just total car sales, Tesla checking off the list one by one. MKBHD shared this video titled "This is Ruining Electric Cars." You can probably guess it's the non-supercharging charging network. He really just shared an anecdote of a woman that he helped out in public who was struggling to charge her car. She didn't know how to use the adapter. The point is, all of the adapters and charging rates and different stations paired with adaptability and reliability and cost and how to pay. There's just so much confusion in this space. The silver lining, I guess, for Tesla stock owners is that, well, this is clearly still a major competitive advantage for Tesla. However, as somebody that really wants to see the spread of all EVs as quickly as possible, this is definitely not good and is a major problem that needs to be solved, which is actually part of the title of this video. More in a second. We got a rare update into Tesla's factory in Buffalo, New York. Some of you out there are probably like, wait, Tesla has a factory in Buffalo? Yes, they do. The short story is the state gave Tesla $950 million for this factory a few years ago and put some requirements on employment figures, etc. At the end of 2022, Tesla was employing 1.7 thousand full-time workers, more than the requirement of 1.4 thousand. Then, so far this year, that number has already risen to 1.9 thousand as of the end of January. If you've been around the channel, you may recall that Panasonic and Tesla were working at this factory. Tesla was using Panasonic's solar cells to make solar panels, but then Tesla kind of shifted focus to the solar roof, and they were using different cells than the ones Panasonic was making. And yes, if you go back even further, you'll find out that this factory has been making V3 superchargers. Not only that, but electronics and energy storage like Powerwall. Back to present day, we learned that this Buffalo factory still does work on the solar roof. It's also been confirmed this factory is still making those electronic components, the superchargers, inverters for things like the Powerwall, and they have employees doing data annotation for FSD. This factory is also now making the air or liquid cooled cables for the supercharger stalls. It's good to get an employment update on this factory to know that there's no fine to be had for Tesla falling below that threshold. This Tesla Mexico reporting is kind of silly at this point. This Reuters article just says the Mexican president has said that the new plant could be installed in either Nuevo León or Hidalgo, and he referred to both states as a possibility. BMW is set to spend $857 million for EV production in Mexico. Part of this money will go toward a lithium-ion battery assembly center at an existing BMW plant, and they will assemble cells from CATL and EVE Energy. Mexico is the largest exporter of auto parts to the United States market, and in addition to this new BMW cell assembly factory, they're intending to build 2 more battery cell factories in North America with its partners, each with a capacity of up to 20 gigawatt hours. Yes, invites are now going out to Tesla's Investor Day on March 1st. They usually go out over the next few weeks, so be patient. Elon said Master Plan Part 3, the path to a fully sustainable energy future for Earth, will be presented March 1st. The future is bright.
Now, one thing we don't know is what body side, outer or inner this is. Most likely it looks exactly like a Model Y based on the form factor, but it's a little shorter on the end.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about some hidden meaning that Sandy and I thought. So it's 39 high by 17 wide. These racks hold 8. So 39 times 17 times 8 is 5,304 times a year's worth of production,
Right.
1,935,960. That, to me, seems like a year's worth of production. Do you think they meant that?
That is exactly right.
So I am not going to over speculate here. Personally, I'm just expecting to hear more about the Generation 3 platform and Tesla achieving massive scale, whatever that may look like. Anything else for me will just be a cherry on top. Yes, for these events, I do my best to keep my expectations low. Many people were asking how these invites actually go out. I'm sure Elon and the Tesla team can invite certain people, but generally speaking, this is supposed to be a random drawing. So if you're a Tesla investor, just make sure that you verify your shares. I'll include this link below. And no worries, yes, this event will be live streamed on Twitter and YouTube. We got another new study that's not shining a great light on plug-in hybrids, even the ones that actually do charge their batteries. This was done by transportenvironment.org. These tests confirm beyond a doubt lawmakers should base taxes for plug-in hybrids on their actual pollution and stop subsidizing their sale. The BMW 3 Series that was tested actually polluted 3 times its official rating when driven on a typical commuter route. Again, even when starting with a full battery. So on road tests in hybrid default mode, as you can see, all of these vehicles, the 3 Series, the Peugeot 308, and the Renault Megane, they all polluted more than they claimed. And remember, a lot of plug-in hybrid owners don't plug in these cars. And just look at the data when these cars are not starting with a fully charged battery, which in the real world is apparently oftentimes the case. These engines are then emitting 5 to 7 times the amount of advertised CO2. Elon said how times have changed in response to this chart from Charlie Bolello. We have Ford as the baby blue line, GM as the dark blue, and Tesla as the red. On the top, we're looking at trailing 12 months of revenue. On the bottom, we're looking at trailing 12 months of net income. In terms of revenue, yet again, Tesla is quickly closing this gap. And on the bottom, they've already surpassed both Ford and GM when it comes to net income. And I'll continue to share data in charts like this because for some reason, there's still plenty of people that have no idea what's taking place. Here's where we get into the fact that it's not yet enough. So Rivian has actually teamed up with Polestar, which I love in and of itself, and they've come up with the Pathway Report. This research report is essentially saying if we don't speed things up and start to work together from a sustainability and EV standpoint, we're going to overshoot some of these Paris Agreement goals. And in this case, when they say overshoot, they're actually talking about a greenhouse gas emission overshoot, meaning too much pollution according to where we need to be. They mentioned 3 levers in this report. The first one is fully switching to BEVs across the global car fleet, fully powering this BEV fleet with fossil-free energy, and making significant advances in sustainable production and manufacturing all throughout the supply chain. The summary of this research is essentially the industry needs to simultaneously tackle all 3 at an accelerated pace, or we're not at all going to hit our climate goals in terms of the Paris Agreement. I'll only share this one data point, but of course this report will be linked below if you're really into this type of stuff. To stay on a 1.5 degree pathway, the manufacturing and supply chain would need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 81% by 2032. A massive undertaking. And look, you can say what you will about climate change, but for me, you can't really argue the pollution side of it, and I'd like to have that eradicated. But this report calls for OEM leaders to jointly come to the table to discuss where opportunities might exist to collaborate on the greatest challenge humankind has faced. Rivian and Polestar are basically encouraging a roundtable discussion between all of the leaders to collaborate to see how they can speed this movement up. And yes, you can call me an optimist, but the idea of these companies collaborating and working together, not giving away trade secrets, but just finding ways where we can help each other to make better cars, and in the end, the consumer will win. And yes, there's still a huge, wide open market for EVs where more than one player can win in big ways. But for me, I'm really just thinking simple things, which ties back to the MKBHD video. How about a simple charging standard? Now, I know that ship may have already sailed globally, but at least in certain markets, maybe in the United States, we can get something done or have some form of education where normal people who don't watch Electrified videos every day can actually feel comfortable driving an EV and knowing how and where to charge it. So I don't know if anything will come of this, but I definitely like the initiative and I definitely wanted to at least share it. Rivian released a new software update yesterday with some improvements to its key fobs, and this one includes updated EPA estimated range. It increases the depth of discharge, or DOD, which increases the usable battery energy. John Redinger said that his Rivian showed 237 miles at 85% of charge before the update. Now after, at 85%, that number is up to 251 miles. And there were some other software and media improvements with this update as well. And it looks like Frito-Lay will have one of the Tesla semis in downtown Phoenix for the Super Bowl this weekend, so a nice media opportunity. Overall though, it was a pretty quiet news day today. Find me on Twitter at DylanLoomis22. Hope you have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.